Okay, so today let me begin with a very important and powerful paradigm and this is called pruning. We will see first pruning as an independent technique and then pruning as a very effective catalyst, how it can contribute for significant speed up. Both these aspects of this paradigm we will see. Pruning means cutting out, chopping off, throwing away, all these things, they mean pruning. Pruning is a paradigm that is applicable in a context where the output is a subset of input. This is one context where this is very effective. That is because you are throwing out, you are cutting off and so on. What you are looking for should be a subset of what you are given. Pruning is not an appropriate technique, for example, for sorting. You are not going to throw any items out. You are given some bunch of items, you have to rearrange them. So pruning is not an appropriate technique there. You want to compute some formula. You are given an expression and you have to evaluate it. So there is no question of pruning in those contexts. So pruning is appropriate, okay, where the output is a subset of the input. Pruning is a classic wisdom. There is a well-known joke on pruning. How do you sculpt an elephant? Okay. Take a huge stone, chisel off all the portions that does not resemble an elephant. Okay. So what you will be left with is an elephant. So this is exactly pruning. Every problem will have input and you are looking for an output with certain properties. When the output is a subset of the input, certain items in the inputs will satisfy the property and some of them will not satisfy the property. So what you can do is, whenever you see that certain properties are not satisfied and they cannot be a part of an output, you throw it off. Therefore, pruning algorithm goes through stages where in each stage you throw away something which is irrelevant, something which cannot form a part of your proposed output or the one which you are looking for, and in this way you converge to the output. So you are given a huge stone, whatever doesn't look like an elephant you are chiseling off. Similarly, whatever is not going to contribute for an output from the input you throw out, and finally you converge to the answer. This is especially useful if I have lot of difficulties in identifying or pinpointing exactly the kind of a property and output that I am looking for. Okay. And this is also a very powerful technique used in describing certain things. In many cases, the complement is somewhat easy to explain rather than the original set. Okay. One of the best questions that philosophers asked is, who am I? You remember who is that person famous for asking this question? Who am I? Ramana Maharishi, right? Is down south in a small town. Okay. So he asked the question, who am I? And how to answer it? The way in which he has answered is rather very impressive. I am not my name. The first thing that we say is that, who are you? I am Pandurangan. Are you your name? No. Are you your hand? Are you your shirt? Are you your possessions like pen, money, bank account? So you are not your money, you are not your name, you are not your body. Then what are you? So you can see that the answer to that question gets more and more startling the more you eliminate everything? It's a very profound question, but the answer for it, rather than telling you directly in a very complicated term, it requires certain assumptions, certain background and lot more things that goes into the answer. However, there is a broad misconception, and even if the misconceptions are first eliminated, that itself would give a better focus. And that is the strategy he used, and he never said, who am I, in a direct way. He kept on eliminating. So people ask question, is it this? And then he will argue why it is not that. And then he will promote you gradually and finally take you to the pinnacle of the wisdom. And this is a very standard strategy which is used in Prashnopanishad, and many of our Indian classical writings follow this. What is life? When this question was asked, I cannot tell you what is life, but I can tell you something what is not life. And that is how he begins and then goes on to explain things. Same thing we are going to do. You are looking for an output, and first what we will do in a series of computation is, this is not going to be the output and this is not going to be the output and so on, and we eliminate it and finally arrive at the answer. The best example is binary search, which can act as a wonderful case study for this one as well. You look at the sorted sequence, you are looking for an item in this, and the way in which you look for is that you make some computation and then say that the item I am looking for is not going to be in this half. So you eliminate 50% of the input and then you look into the remaining part. Again you do a little bit of computation and prune away at another 50%, and in this way you are pruning away in every stage 50% of the input, and finally you arrive at the answer. Either it is there or the answer no, whatever it is, you keep obtaining in the elimination process. It is a classic example where pruning as a paradigm is directly applied. Okay. So now we are going to discuss a problem, an award-winning idea, award-winning algorithm based on the pruning strategy, and that has been extensively used in several library functions. The problem is the following. Suppose you are given n numbers, a1, a2, etc. an. This problem is called order statistics. Find kth smallest item. Find kth smallest item. So when k equal to 1, it is the smallest item. In fact, when k equal to n, it is the largest item. Nth smallest item in a collection of n items is the largest item. So you know how to solve this problem for at least k equal to 1 and k equal to n. So 1 is less than or equal to k, less than or equal to n. This is also given. So you are given as an input for order statistics a set A and a number k, where 1 is less than or equal to k, less than or equal to cardinality of A, and you have to find out an item whose rank is k, kth smallest item. This is extensively used. Your GRE score, your TOEFL scores and various GATE scores and anything that you take in percentile computations and then threshold settings according to a particular value in a huge collection, all of them are done using these kind of statistical packages which would try to locate a rank of a given item in a collection. Okay. So for k equal to 1 and for k equal to n, for k equal to 1 and for k equal to n, you know how to solve it. It's very easy and the time is linear. K equal to 1 or k equal to n, you have an order n algorithm. It takes only n time. Suppose you are given 7,000 items and you have to identify 429th item. How would you do it? You have a 7,000 numbers and you have to get 429th item. So it's a little tricky for an arbitrary k. So we observe also the following. The item you are looking for is one of the items in the input. So can we apply pruning as a paradigm? One method which may not involve any pruning is the following: sort A, output kth item from the sorted list. This is one method where you can find the kth smallest element. Easy. Whatever is given, you sort them. The kth smallest item is in fact the kth item in the sorted list. Where will you find the smallest item? In the beginning. The largest item there, and whatever is the kth smallest item, it will be there in the kth position. So easily you can do this. But what is the complexity of this method? We know that for sorting n items, you need at least n log n time. Therefore, the complexity of this method is n log n. No matter what sorting algorithm you use, even the best of the sorting algorithm that is known is used, it is going to take n log n steps, n log n labor, and you cannot do anything better than that. So the question is, can we be little clever and devise a method which is substantially smaller than this? What we are targeting is a linear time algorithm, and the linear time algorithm is that is because for k equal to 1 and n we have linear. Why not we have something linear? What is the trouble with the sorting based algorithm? The sorting is a overkill. Sorting fixes the rank of all items. What you want is the kth smallest item. You don't care about other items, right? So this is a real overkill, and that is why you are spending more time. Let us just focus on getting just the kth smallest item. Okay, and my strategy for pruning resembles the binary search, where I have already some impression in me and some kind of a experience. Okay, so in binary search what I do is I choose the middle element, compare it, and then find whether it is smaller or larger, and accordingly I prune away one half, right? If I find it to be larger, I throw all the smaller items. If I find to be smaller, I throw all the larger items. So every stage I prune away. So can we do something like that here? But then my collection is not sorted. It is simply an arbitrary sequence of n numbers. So what do I do now? Let me now split with respect to a pivot, whatever is that central element which you have used. Let me choose some item and then split it, much like the partition which you do in quicksort. We are going to simply split it. When we split it, how do we split? Take an item, let us say A1, and construct the set. A1 is set of all A belonging to A such that A is less than A1, and A2 is the set A1, and A3 is the set of all A belonging to A such that A is greater than A1. So now I have three sets. I assume for the sake of simplicity in discussion that all these items are distinct. This is just a simplifying assumption just to make the discussion clearer. So you have A1, A2, A3, three sets you have formed. And how many operations you would do to get this kind of a split? Simply n minus 1 comparison. You take A2, compare with A1. If it is smaller, put it in A1. If it is larger, put that in A3. So you are going to put that either or here. You make one comparison on behalf of A2, A3, A4, etc., An. So after n minus 1 comparisons, you can have these three sets in your hand. Now you are looking for the kth smallest item. I compute the size of A1, cardinality of A1. How many items are there? Incidentally, you can find out how many items are there in A1 also on the fly. As and when you put an item in A1, initially A1 is empty, A2 is having only A1, A3 is also empty. Then as and when you dump an item in that set, update the cardinality. So on the fly you can get this information. You don't have to do some extra work separately. And when you get this cardinality, suppose cardinality of A1 equal to k minus 1. This is a wonderful situation. You are looking for the kth smallest item. What is the property of the kth smallest item? There are k minus 1 items smaller than that. And they were all captured here in A1. Therefore, the kth smallest item you are looking for is very much the A1 which you have simply chosen to work as a pivot. You are extremely lucky in this case. So, output A1 and halt. That's it. One case is simple. If cardinality of A1 is k minus 1, note that you are looking for the kth smallest item. There are k minus 1 items must be smaller than that. You have taken A1, collected all the smaller items, and you found that there are k minus 1 of them. Therefore, you have stumbled upon the item you are looking for, okay, by a sheer accident, but still it works. Therefore, you output and halt. But then this need not be the case, because A1 is chosen in a fairly mindless fashion. You have taken the first item and used that as a splitter to generate A1, A2 and A3. So what I am going to do is consider other case. Suppose cardinality of A1 is greater than k minus 1. If cardinality of A1 is greater than k minus 1, what should we do? Let us take a simple example. Suppose you are looking in a collection of 100 items. Okay? You are looking for, let us say, 15th item. You are looking for 15th item. Let's say k equal to 15, you have 100 items. Now what you have done is you have taken A1 and you have split it. It so happened that the cardinality of A1, okay, cardinality of A1 equal to 25. So 25 items are thrown here. In fact, that immediately implies that A1 is the 26th smallest item, right? And A3 has got all the larger items, 27th smallest, 28th and so on. All the rest of the 74 items are in A3. So 25 items are here. This has one item and this has the remaining numbers. Okay. You are looking for the 15th smallest item, right? And A2 is the 26th smallest item and it has pooled all the initial 25 smaller items in A1. So where will the item you are looking for is going to be? It is going to be in A1. Surely 15th smallest item cannot be here. Why? All these items are larger than 26th smallest item, right? 26th smallest item happens to be A1. 26 smallest items happens to be A1 and this has got all larger item. Therefore, the 15th smallest item cannot be here. So, you are going to prune that away and you are going to proceed with your computation only in A1. Therefore, what you are going to do is order statistics. Now, you are going to work with A1. Remember order statistics, A, K is the parameter. And in A1, you are now looking for the 15th smallest item. Therefore, the same A1K continues. If cardinality of A1 is greater than K minus 1, you are going to continue your process with A1 and there you will look for the kth smallest item. The 15th smallest item in A1 is what you will look for. Let us take a complementary other view. Suppose cardinality of A1 is less than K minus 1. In other words, let the scenario be same, but assume that I am looking for 40th smallest item. Okay, I am looking for 40th smallest item. Suppose K equal to 40. The same thing has happened. You have chosen A1 as a splitter. In A1, 25 items have gone. A2 has got only A1, A3 has got other item. Suppose you are looking for 40th item. K minus 1 is 39. Clearly, cardinality of A1 is less than K minus 1. Okay, now what do I do now? First you observe that what A1 has? A1 has smallest item, second smallest item and so on up to the first 25 smallest items of A are pooled in A1. And A2 itself is the 26th smallest item. Therefore, the 40th smallest item you are looking for is not going to be here and it is not this either. So, you are going to continue with A3. Okay? In other words, you are pruning away A1, you are pruning away A2 and you are going to continue with A3. So, order statistics A3. We have to be slightly careful here. When you are looking in A3, what is the rank of the item now? The rank is slightly changed. Why the rank is changed? In A, an item may be having rank 40. But what will be its rank in A3? In A3 its rank is, see you have the relative rank now has changed. You have removed already 25 smaller items and 26th smallest item is also gone. So, the 40th guy becomes the 14th guy now. That is because all the smaller ones are gone. Therefore, when you continue with A3, you have to continue with K minus cardinality of A1 minus 1. This cardinality of A1 is so many smaller items are gone. This minus 1 is for the removal of ignoring of A1 also, because I am strictly looking at A3 and in this the new rank is K minus A1 minus 1 and that is all. My job is done. I have devised a pruning based algorithm. All I am doing is that I take a splitter, split the whatever is the set in hand into 3 parts, look into the cardinality of the first part, accordingly I prune further and then keep proceeding. There are 3 possibilities, either I halt or I prune away 2 parts and proceed with only one of them. Okay? So, every time you see that some chunk goes away and this is a pruning based strategy. It is pruning based, it is well intended and then it is also good, logic, everything is clean, okay. But then just because I have told you, just because an idea is new and different, it need not be a good one. So, we have to see whether it is indeed a good algorithm, okay. The anticlimax is that this is a terrible algorithm. Why it can become very bad? The reason is it may not eliminate big chunk of items at all, because it is not eliminating big chunk of items. For example, if A1 happens to be the smallest item, then what happens? If A1 is the smallest item, there won't be anybody in this and this is the only one and A3 will have every other item. So, you will do the splitting, in other words you will do n minus 1 steps to split, but finally you find that one of them empty and when you proceed with the recursion you are going to proceed with the set of size n minus 1. In other words, you have pruned only one item. The same thing can happen again and it can happen again and again and again. In other words, you might not prune significantly and because of that what might happen is this can go through n stages and in each stage you may perform number of comparison proportional to the number of items in the list. In other words, you may do n minus 1 comparisons and then n minus 2 comparisons and so on, and this is order n square. Okay? This is a bad news. I have a fairly stupid algorithm which is fixing the rank of everybody and even that takes only n log n. And pruning with all the philosophy and then great impression I started, but finally what happened is that it is leading to an algorithm which is worse than the simple minded algorithm. Okay? So this can happen. You have to be careful. You have to look for the weaknesses and then try to fix it up. Okay? You have to fine tune the technique. Pruning tells you try to eliminate as much as possible. So if your strategy is effective, then you will be able to eliminate better. Okay? So the problem is this one or this one can become empty, or in other words, or this may have only one or two items, everything else can go here. Is it possible that I have substantial amount of elements here as well as substantial amount of element here? If that is the case, then obviously choosing simply in a mindless fashion the splitter is not going to work. So you have to be very clever in choosing the splitter. Unless you are very careful in choosing the splitter, it's not going to work at all. Okay? So people were doing a lot of work. It took 5 years for the ingenious minds to hit on a very clever strategy for pruning, for discovering a very clever A1. Okay? From the time in which the first pruning based algorithm published in 61 based on quicksort, when quicksort was proposed, they said this can be modified to find the kth smallest item also, but then that turned out to be m square, which is bad. People know that it's a nice idea, but it is very inefficient. That also they know. But when did the improvement come? Clearly after 7 full years. It's only in 68 this better idea of working with a clever A1 has emerged. Okay? Although it is now routinely discussed in the textbook, the struggle was phenomenal to get a clever A1. So I'm not going to give the full mathematical details of it, which you can find in a book, but what I want to appeal to you is to look for the scope for pruning whenever it turns out to be ineffective. The strategy that people have used is called median of the median rule. With a picture I can explain what median of the median rule is. Median is a middle element. Okay? If you have 5 elements, let's say A1 less than A2 less than A3 less than A4 less than A5, then the median is the middle element here, which has got as many smaller items as that of the larger items. Okay? So when you have 5 numbers, 2 numbers are smaller, 2 numbers are larger, therefore that one will act as a median. Okay? I am not bothered about the relative values, I am only worried about the rank. So I am not bothered whether this is 1 and this is 5 million, that is not important, because we are looking at the ranks. The individual values do not matter. How many are smaller, how many of them larger, what is the rank of this item, that is what I am now looking for. The median of the median works as follows. Split the input in group of 5, that is what I have done here, and sort them using even the dumbest of all sorting method, let us say like bubble sort. It does not matter. In order to sort 5 items, you are going to take 5 into 4 by 2, which is 10 comparisons. So you can use 10 comparisons and you can sort easily, right, 5 items. So take the first 5 item and sort, and you get A1 less than A2 less than A3 less than A4 less than A5. Take the next 5 items, spend 10 more comparisons and obtain A6 less than A7 less than A8 less than A9 less than A10. So in this way you compare in 5. Suppose you have only 43 items, ignore the 3 items, it does not matter. There are 8 groups, and in 8 groups you perform the comparison. In other words, you are going to have n by 5 groups. To be exact, it is going to be lower integral part of n by 5 groups. So there will be lower integral part of n by 5 groups, sort each one of them. How many comparisons you are going to take? Per group you are going to take 10 comparison. So for lower integral part of n by 5 groups, this into 10, which is less than or equal to 2n. So by performing 2n comparisons, you obtain this configuration, right? Just in 5 they are, and then now pick the middle elements. These are called medians. Pick just the middle element. Among the medians, find the median. Okay, if you call this as the set M of medians, M1, M2, etc., M lower integral part of n by 5. Who is the median of this M? The median of this M is, it will have rank n by 10 because there are n by 5 items. The middle item will have a rank n by 10. Therefore, you are going to find the median by order statistics M lower integral part of n by 10. When you work this, you are getting the so-called median of median. Use this median of median as a splitter. Why you should use the median of median as a splitter? The argument is simple. It is going to push several items in A1 and guaranteed number of items in A3. How many items it will guarantee to push in A1? This is a median. So, if you call this item as let us say X, how many medians are smaller than X? N by 10 items are among the n by 5 medians. X has a rank n by 10. Therefore, n by 5 medians are smaller. And each median has got 2 smaller items of A. So, on the whole, how many items in A are guaranteed to be smaller than X? N by 10 into 3, that is 3n by 10. N by 10 medians are smaller and each median has got 2 other smaller items of A. So, this X has a guarantee of 3 by 10 items is smaller than that. So, when you use X as a splitter, at least 3n by 10 items will land here. Okay? Cardinality is 3n by 10. By a symmetric argument, there are n by 10 larger medians, each one of them has got 2 larger items of A. So, even this one is going to have at least 3n by 10 items. In other words, at least 30% of the items will land here and at least 30% of the items will land here. What is the consequence of it? Whether you proceed with A1 or A3, when it is A2 you are halting. When you proceed either with A1 or A3, 30% of the items are pruned away. Okay? In binary search, we are pruning 50% of the items. Here, what happens is, if you use A1 cleverly found out like this as a splitter, then 30% of the items are pruned away, and that means we have some hope. But then we are spending little more time on finding the splitter. Earlier I didn't find any time on the splitter, but now I find something more. But we are going to see shortly that the gain that we have offsets even the overhead that we spend. The pruning is so effective that it cancels even the overhead time that you are spending in finding this clever splitter. Okay. So, how much time you spend to get this clever splitter? To get the clever splitter, you spend first 2n comparison and this much amount of time, whatever is this. So, how do you represent the complexity? Whenever there is a recursive code, in order to describe the complexity of that method, you have to set up the appropriate recurrence equation. So, the notation we are going to use is as follows. Let Tn denote, or rather Tnk denote the number of comparisons done by the algorithm when working on a set of size n for kth smallest element. Let T and K denote, because these are the two parameters. You are given a set A and you are also given a K. Let T and K denote the number. And I will also use the following notation. Let Tn equal to maximum over K, 1 less than or equal to K less than or equal to n of T n K. Therefore, if I bound Tn, it automatically bounds Tn K for all K, because Tn is maximum over all K of Tn K. And this is what I am going to do. Now I am going to argue that for any K, it doesn't matter. If you use this strategy, you are going to end up with a linear time algorithm. The pruning is so effective that you will have a linear time algorithm. So how do we prove it? Earlier we had pruning, but then that pruning turned out to be inefficient. Now you said median of median, etc. But is it guaranteed to be linear? What if this becomes cubic? And what if this becomes exponential? So we have to guarantee that this is indeed working pretty well, and the argument is extremely elegant and very easy to understand. And I am going through the analysis part of it because this will tell you how to look at the effect of pruning and where you should intuitively look for it. Later on you can do your own mathematics for any application that you have. But you have to observe carefully where we are getting that right intuition. Okay. So this is a maximum of several items. Therefore, we can see that Tn equal to Tnk for some K. You take that K, assume that you are running that algorithm for that K for which this turned out to be equal. When you run for that particular K, you are going to do this. What do you do first? First you sort in 5, that is in fact less than or equal to, because less than or equal to 2n comparisons are done. And what is the complexity of this? What is the cardinality of this? Cardinality of this is n by 5, and cardinality of this is n by 5, and you are getting n by 10. Therefore, T n by 5 n by 10 plus, after finding the clever partition, what do? After finding the clever A1, what do? You use it to split. When you use it to split, how many comparisons you take? You are making n minus 1 comparison to split. So plus n minus 1. Then you are going to proceed either with A1 or with A3. Whatever is the rank, it doesn't matter. It could be K or it could be this one, but 30% is pruned away. When you are working with A3, A1 is gone, so 30% is gone, or when you go with A1, A3 is gone, in which case 30% is gone. So in other words, when you are going to continue, you are going to work with a set of cardinality 7n by 10 some star, whatever is that K or anything, right? This is what it happens. But we are interested in relating to Tn. Fortunately, Tn by 5 is less than or equal to Tn, because Tn by 5 is maximum. So this is less than or equal to 2n plus n minus 1. You can make it as 3n plus Tn by 5 plus T7n by 10. In other words, we are getting this equation. T of n is less than or equal to 3n plus Tn by 5 plus T7n by 10. Follow this very subtle point. Tn by 5 is less than or equal to Tn by 5 n by 10 is less than or equal to Tn by 5. T7n, whatever is the K, because my notation is Tn is the maximum over all K. So whatever is the K there, it doesn't matter, T7n by 10 is going to dominate. Now you should see visibly the pruning. You have a problem of size n. Now you are producing the solution of the problem by solving a problem of size n by 5 and another problem of size 7n by 10. You add the fraction. This is 1 by 5 plus 7 by 10, this is equal to 9 by 10, which is strictly less than 1. In other words, these two problem sizes are adding up to something which is less than 1, and that means a pruning has taken place. You have now ignored, you are able to get some gain there. Okay? So this is what you should look for. If as the pruning has taken place, later on we are going to see divide and conquer, where you are going to relate it to a smaller subproblem, but their problem size will add up to the original size. Here you can see that it is not adding up to the original size. The interesting and significant feature is that it is adding up to a quantity which is strictly less than 1. In other words, you see that this is what the pruned work, 70% you are going to continue with. It has pruned so much that there is little overhead in finding that clever A1, but that overhead is also offset because still I have some reduction. Okay, some significant percentage of reduction. By constant factor, I could get the reduction here. Because of this reduction, you can show that T of n is less than or equal to 30n. How did I get this 30? Is it you can verify T of n is less than or equal to 30n by simple induction. How did I get this? It is not by magic, but by an extremely straightforward and simple computation. Suppose you have, I can erase this now. Suppose you have T of n equal to Cn, some constant n, plus T of Pn plus T of Qn, where P and Q are fractions, but P plus Q add up to something strictly less than 1. Okay? If this is the case, then my claim is that T of n is equal to C dash n for some other exactly T of n equal to C dash n for some other constant. What is the C dash of n? Let us put the value C dash n and then I can tell you what is that exactly. For example, T of n will be C dash n if C dash n equal to C of n plus C dash Pn plus C dash Qn, and you can cancel n throughout. This is an arbitrary integer. Bringing all of them here, C dash into 1 minus P plus Q equal to C. Therefore, C dash equal to C by 1 minus P plus Q. Fortunately, this is a meaningful number because P plus Q is strictly less than 1, and this C dash will work for you. Right? So, here the C turns out to be 3. And what is P plus Q? 9 by 10. What is 1 minus 9 by 10? 1 minus 9 by 10 is 1 by 10. So, what I should do? C by 1 minus P plus Q, which is equal to 3 by 1 by 10, which is 30. That is the reason why I have chosen 30, and 30 will work for you, as this simple algebra demonstrates. That is all. So, the pruning effect can be intuitively felt, and the benefit of that can be seen, and now we have an algorithm which is linear in complexity. It is of order n and not n log n or n square. So, a careless pruning was leading to an n square algorithm, but a slightly clever pruning with a very subtle balance, a delicate balancing of you are spending little more time to find a clever A1, but that A1 must really prune significant amount that this overhead is also compensated by your smaller problem that comes out of it. Okay, and that significant offsetting you could visibly see because these fractions add up to a quantity less than 1. Okay, in fact, if these quantity add up to 1, then suppose if you have T of n equal to where P plus Q equal to 1, then T of n is in fact order n log n. There is a dirty mathematics to show this, don't worry about it, just know the fact that if P equal to Q equal to 1, then it will be n log n. A special case is P equal to half and Q equal to half, okay, that is T of n equal to twice T of n by 2 plus C of n. This will be order n log n, and there is some maths to show that. Don't worry about it. What I want to show is that when the problem sizes add up to the original size, no pruning is taking place and the complexity will be n log n. But when the problem size add up to something less than 1, you see the gain, and immediately the analysis shows that this is 30n. And this is the reason why you must perform the analysis of a method. Just because an idea comes into your mind, don't immediately jump and say that it is a good idea. It is a new idea, all right, but whether it is a good or bad will be revealed only by the analysis. Okay? What is the end product of analysis? What do you do in an analysis? You do the instruction count and look for the efficiency parameters. And finally, you get a comment on the functional relation, and that tells you everything about efficiency. Earlier, I did the back of the envelope computation and showed that it is n square. Therefore, I know that it is terrible, worse than the n log n. And now I made another choice, and this requires little more careful analysis, but even that careful analysis is not all that complicated, and I could see that it is linear. Okay? So, this is pruning. Okay? Make a significant effort so that you get effective pruning and get quick convergence to the answer, and finally get the output. Okay? Pruning is a very powerful paradigm. When you cannot attack certain thing directly, much like the question on who am I, right? The elimination process is much more efficient and effective and realizable, and that is exactly what we have done. There is no clue whatsoever on how to look for the kth smallest element, right? I know I am looking for the kth smallest element. With that property, can I check each item and then try to see whether this will work for me or this would work for me and stuffs like that? So, although I know the property of the output, although I know the property to be satisfied by the output, checking with each one of them looks like a meaningless exercise, right? In other words, I am not able to directly work with that property, but I am able to work with the complement of the property and eliminate that, and finally get to an item which has the required property, right? Finally, the item I am going to output in this process will have k minus 1 smaller items, and this will be the kth smallest item. But then I am not discovering that by this way, checking each one whether it is going to work for me or not, and so on. Item wise I don't do, but I consider the whole, eliminate people who cannot be kth smallest items, and finally arrive at an answer. And this is going to be the spirit behind the pruning. And now we are going to take a look at pruning as a catalyst. This is pruning as an independent problem solver, just as a tool. When pruning, I am going to now show how pruning can act as a catalyst. In other words, there are some strategies onto which when you superimpose pruning, you get fantastic results. In fact, I am going to address to you some of the practical problems for which you must use pruning, otherwise you will be totally lost. And I will also show how those kind of a pruning can be effective. Okay? So, let me now go to another problem and then introduce you a new paradigm. Then I will come back to the argument on how pruning is going to act as a catalyst, okay, in this context. The problem I am going to discuss is called subset sum problem. subset sum problem. What is the subset sum problem? The subset sum problem is this: you are given a subset of integers, okay? Let us say 14, 10, 24, 7, 9, 1, like this. Let us say some are, and you are also given a number, okay? Let us say 31. You have to output all the subsets whose values add up to 31 if there is any. If there is none, you have to say no subset add up to 1. For example, if it is 28, okay, there may not be a set which is adding up to the, certainly 728, if you consider, there is no subset which is adding up to this value. So, given a set and a value m, you have to output, for example, 31 is given by 14, 10, 7. If you call it as A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, this is nothing but A1, A2 and A4, and another set could be 24 and 7, which is A3 and A4. Another one could be 14, 9, 1, 7, which is A1, A4, A5, A6, and so on. So, like this you have several subsets that are adding up to m. In these type of problems, we have two versions. One is finding one item, another one is enumeration problem, where reporting all the subsets which are adding up to this. Both the versions are equally complicated. Now, if you want to solve this problem, how do we go about doing this? This turned out to be a key problem in a resource allocation related. You can easily see when you are trying to get some kind of a load balancing, if you have various tasks with various finish times, how would you split them, balance them, etc., kind of a question when you want to have, and when you do not want to have some threshold being exceeded, right? Splitting all these things arise naturally. Okay? So, this is one of the key problems encountered in resource allocation related scenario. So, people were trying to solve this desperately, right? They tried more than 20 years, nobody could find an efficient solution for it. It was very surprising. Problem was very simple, but still no one could find a very clever solution for this. All of them are taking exponential amount of time. Much later, to the utter disappointment of everyone, Karp showed in 1972 that this problem is NP complete, which means there is no real hope of, it's not a proof, but there is no real hope of getting an efficient solution for this other than going by your exhaustive search method. If you want to go by exhaustive search for a set of n items, how many subsets you have? The number of subsets is 2 power n. So, you have to see whether this set is adding up to this, whether something else is adding up to this, and so on. Okay? You have to carry out that exhaustively. You don't know which subset would add up and which one will not, and therefore you end up doing this exhaustively. So, how do I do this exhaustive search? To maintain, let us say, 1024 sets, even n equal to 10, right? Imagine the complexity of maintaining, managing, organizing, computing with 1024 sets and 65,356 sets. Mentally you see that you are totally lost. There is no way you can have the name for each set and try to look for it, and then it becomes too much out of your hand. Maintaining that many sets and then individually looking for an item in that, if you go in an unstructured fashion, it is impossible. Okay? So, this is where we need the representation of what is known as solution space. So, the solution space consists of 2 power n items, and in this 2 power n items you are going to search for the item which is satisfying your property, namely which subset add up to 31. This is what you are going to look at. For instance, in this case it is 2 power 6 which is 64. Among 64 subsets you have to find out which of them are all adding up to 31. This is very simple, but when n becomes larger you could see that it is humanly impossible, and then it is simply mind boggling. So, unless we have an organization of a solution space, it is not possible to examine